excited you all are here. We have an awesome crew today. This is going to be such a fun conversation. So if you are joining us in the audience, let us know where you're joining from, maybe something you're excited about hearing in this conversation, so we make sure that we hit that topic. If you are here today, it is to join us for Beyond Quota, the playbook to turn your personal brand into a sales superpower. So hopefully that's why you're joining us, and we're so happy you're here. My name is Alexine Mudawar. I am CEO of Women in Sales. We are the largest global community for women in the field of sales. We provide educational opportunities, resources, events, really anything that will help women within their sales careers. And we are co-hosting today's event as part of a series that we've been doing throughout this entire year with ZoomInfo, who is an amazing partner of ours. So Kayla, I'm going to have you kick off personal introductions, but also if you can tell everyone who ZoomInfo is, if they don't know too, that would be amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually celebrating my 4 years at ZoomInfo this week. So thrilled to be a part of this amazing organization. My name's Kayla Prunier. I lead our new business enterprise team here at ZoomInfo. If you're not familiar with ZoomInfo, I like to call it the unfair advantage for sales, marketers, and RevOps teams. We really serve up the most accurate data and also intelligence on companies, prospects, and customers so that we can put you in front of your next best customer really at the right time. Prior to joining ZoomInfo, I was actually a customer of ZoomInfo's. And we'll also talk about today how your personal brand can give you another unfair advantage in the sales world.
Absolutely. Love it. We love an unfair advantage for the best of circumstances here. So thanks so much for joining. Excited to have you back, Kayla. And Lucy, can you introduce yourself as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Lucy Obatelli. I'm an account executive at My Sales Coach. Effectively, we offer one-to-one coaching for every part of the sales function, your SDRs, your account executives, and your sales leadership as well. We believe that coaching is the number one thing you can do to move the needles. A lot of sales leaders will tell us that every single day, but it is the thing that slips down the list of priorities. So we're on a mission to make that a priority, help reps hit the numbers that are set of them. And yeah, super excited to be talking about personal brand and how that's helped to get me where I am today.
Amazing. Welcome, welcome. Leslie, introduce yourself, but also maybe tell the folks out there about a big announcement that's coming from you.
Yes. Oh my gosh. We are days away from the launch of my new book, Profit Generating Pipeline, August 5th. So like literally hours at this point, hours away. Very excited about that. When I am not writing, editing, publishing the book, I am the founder of the Sales-Led Go-to-Market Agency, and I work with outbound teams specifically on top of funnel excellence.
Amazing. So happy to have all of you here. This is such a rock star panel we have going. So I am honored. Thank you for being here. We're going to dive right in. So today, I don't like to use the word demystify, but we're going to demystify some things as it pertains to building your sales personal brand, what it means. So I think a really healthy place to start this conversation would be about why you initially started to build out your personal brand. What was the reason? And I'm actually going to start with you, Leslie, for this, because you're one of the first people I remember kind of connecting with and being in the same orbit with as we were building out similar kind of sales brands for ourselves. So I would love to hear from you about why you even started on this journey.
Yeah, I started because I wanted to get better jobs. So I wasn't really thinking of LinkedIn at the time as a personal branding tool. I was using it predominantly as a lead database. And then I realized that the more time I spent on my profile, the more inbound action I got from recruiters. And so started viewing it as this opportunity to level up the inbound job requests that I was getting. And it wasn't until a few years after that I realized how much power there was in sharing knowledge, which tapped into some of the opportunities that I have now that I know we're going to dig into later.
Amazing. Yes. Lucy, our friend across the pond, you have so many cool insights. I like following your content too. So would love to hear from you as well, why you even started on this journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess it really was just a bit of I'm going to post on LinkedIn and see what happens. Like there was no strategic plan, although I'd love to say I knew that it was going to open all these doors for me, but it was just kind of like candidate attraction. Like I was working in recruitment at the time. So kind of like Leslie's mentioned there, like I was trying to get more candidates to work with me, get more companies to want to recruit through us, and just kind of started doing it as a bit of a, look, this is who I am. And it kind of started off being a bit more about the jobs I was posting, or it was about me and what I was up to. And then it was only when I started getting more into the SaaS world, I realized that people were in interviews saying like, oh, your LinkedIn brand's great, like you have followers, things like that. And I was like, oh, actually, I didn't realize how much of a edge this would be. So yeah, I guess that's where it all started for myself.
Amazing. And Kayla, I feel like you do a really cool job because you have a great external presence, but also internal presence. Like you're very well respected, well known within Zoom Info as well. So would love to hear about, your overall journey to why you got started with building your personal brand too.
Yeah. I mean, it seems similar to Leslie and Lucy, a little bit selfish, but I cut my teeth in door-to-door sales. And so when I started selling B2B, I didn't have a Zoom Info. I literally went and knocked on doors, and I had to sell typically to the C-suite. And if you go and knock on a door at a bank, it's highly unlikely that they're going to point you to the controller or CFO's office and say like, go take a seat and meet with, him or her. And so I started to think about other ways that I could try to access these people and channels. And I found myself on LinkedIn, and it opened up the doors to some really amazing meetings, which ultimately generated some great revenue. And that was when that like buzz, I mean, we're almost, 2 decades ago here that I'm talking about, the buzz of like social selling and whatnot. That's how I found my way there. But ultimately, I think we'll talk more about this, but your brand isn't just on social media. There's a whole lot more to it that takes place also in person.
Oh, what a perfect segue, Kayla. I don't know if you did that on purpose, but we are heading into one of the most asked questions that we get in Women in Sales when we talk about personal brand, which is personal brand just posting on LinkedIn? I think there's a misconception or an understanding that, if I post on LinkedIn, that is my brand, whatever those posts look like, whatever content I share. So let's dig in a little bit about what does personal brand mean to each of you? And does it simply mean just what you post on social media, or is it something bigger? So Lucy, let's start with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think maybe when like posts started getting traction, maybe I started to think, oh, well, maybe that's all that it is. But actually it's when it came to like networking events, internal, even sort of like company view of you, like that just completely changed just beyond that, just from growing a personal brand. And it became so much more, particularly in my role now as an account executive, like the personal brand and post on LinkedIn is great because you get that recognition, that bit more familiarity with people, but actually it's much bigger than that. And it's kind of now open doors and opportunities just beyond that. So yeah, I would say it probably is more than just simply posting on LinkedIn. It's how you present yourself internally. It's how you present yourself in networking events, and being that familiar person to other people in the room. So yeah, I guess that's probably my hot take on that.
Excellent. Kayla, what about you? What else comes to mind when you think about personal brand?
Yeah, Lucy, you made some really good points there. I think that ultimately you can drive credibility and trust through a presence on social media with your prospective customers. Think about LinkedIn, for example. But I think your brand is created through actions. What you post could potentially be smoke and mirrors, right? And so I really like to think about actions and that ultimately defining my brand, and then putting that onto social.
Absolutely. Leslie, you have done a really good job of building brand, not only on LinkedIn as a platform, TikTok, all these other places, and of course in person as well. So what comes to mind for you?
Yeah, there definitely is an online, offline element for sure, as Kayla and Lucy hinted at. I think online, it's good to remember that personal branding goes way, way beyond LinkedIn. That's just one channel. Like you said, I have a large following on TikTok as well. I'm growing on YouTube. But even then, I still think posting is only maybe 20% of what really matters. The rest of it is how you are showing up in the comments, how you are engaging with folks that ask for help, that come into your DMs. I had a post go viral earlier this year because I was at an event and there was a speaker whose content I follow. They were in the comments of my post. We'd gone back and forth with comments. I was so excited to meet them. I even sent them a note saying how excited I was to finally meet them in real life. And then I kind of queued the event, waited for our conversation to end so I could introduce myself. Complete blank stare. This person had absolutely no idea who I was. Clearly their entire account is being run by AI, run by marketing assistant, I don't know. So I think it is not just talking at people, making sure you're having conversations with people on whatever social media platforms that you're present on, and then ensuring that that authenticity and that engagement carries into real life interactions.
Absolutely agreed. Yeah, I cannot think of better examples than when you're at conferences. And I think I was at SaaStr last year and someone literally quoted like one of my posts to me directly. I'm like, thankfully I'm knowledgeable about this topic and it wasn't this. It was really interesting because they were like, I've seen your point of view. I understand how you feel about this. And like, here's how I feel. Like we were able to engage in such a different dialogue because they had seen that, because that was their interpretation. And I think also it helps connect the dots because they're like, I see you online, you have one persona there, but it isn't necessarily exactly who you are in person. You know, there's going to be similarities, but it's just one piece of the puzzle. So these are fantastic insights here. For our audience, before we move forward here, if you have specific questions that you would like to direct towards our panelists here, if you can drop those, not in the chat, but in the Q&A tab so that we don't lose track of them. We will be trying to get to those at the end based on how much time we have left. So any questions as it pertains to building your brand, all things sales, personal branding, drop them in there and we will cover those as we move through today's conversation. One area I think that comes up a lot too, when we think about personal brand and LinkedIn and all these things, is how you curate a community or a newsfeed that reflects your personal and professional values. This is really critical because I know for me, initially when I got on LinkedIn, I was like connecting with whoever and following. And then I started to read some of the posts and I was like, ooh, I really do not resonate with this particular author, but they're really big in our space. So am I supposed to kind of worship them or like what they say? So would love to hear from each of you about how you really curate your own newsfeed, your own community, the people around you to reflect your personal and professional values. And Kayla, maybe we'll start with you for this one.
Yeah, I think it's been a little bit of an evolution for me. When I first started, I did the exact same thing. I followed everyone, I connected with everyone. And then I started to realize, to Leslie's point, it's not just what you're posting, it's what you're engaging in, it's what you're following. And frankly, some of what I was following in the past just didn't align with my personal or professional views. And so going back and really filtering out what I want to be aligned with, what I want to see more of, and what how I want that to reflect on who I am as a person in my brand. And so one thing I learned there is, more isn't necessarily more. It's great to have a more crafted following, and it can also evolve. It's fluid.
Yeah, absolutely. Lucy, what about you?
Yeah, I definitely agree with a lot of what Kayla said there. Like, it was like, okay, I'm in this role. These are the big names. I'm going to follow all of them, see what happens. And as you kind of do the role more yourself, you understand more about the industry, etc., you kind of think, oh, actually, don't 100% agree with that. Not sure that aligns with my beliefs and etc. But I think kind of to like what Leslie mentioned before, like the comment sections of content creators that you enjoy, they're a really great space to find other people that are great to follow. They produce their own content and then you find other people off that. So it is really that growing that network. But you'll find with content creators that you love or people who are building personal brands on LinkedIn that you love, that most likely the people that follow in them are also going to be the people that you enjoy. So that's probably my top tip is, like you say, have that bit more of a filtered approach, and just kind of use those LinkedIn comments, likes, even profile views, people that are viewing your profile. There's naturally, hopefully, some I guess, synergy there between what you both believe, you post, etc. So I'd say that's the best way to kind of curate your community and your newsfeed.
Absolutely. And LinkedIn makes it so easy that now they have like the people you should also follow, which Leslie's always on my list. And like, if you like this voice, follow this voice. I think that's one of the easiest places to find some of those folks that could really connect with your brand values. So, Leslie, anything else to add here?
Yeah, two thoughts. First, just doubling down on what Lucy said, I literally had a comment go viral earlier this year, had over 15,000 impressions. I had a bunch of connection requests specifically from the comment. So if people are wanting to get started in content creation and maybe they're not quite ready to post, like double, triple down on this conversation around comments. Two things, Alexine, that came up for me. One is a reminder that this is still our personal social media, and you are not responsible for holding space for anybody else on your social media. So if you see stuff on your newsfeed you don't like, unfollow those people. If you start posting and people are making comments on your post that don't align with your values, delete that, maybe even report them. That was a really critical evolution for me about 4 years ago when I started creating content very seriously. I felt like I had to just give everybody space to leave their thoughts. And then later I realized, no, I'm responsible for creating a safe space in my comment section. And now I'm pretty quick to boot people and block people. And the other thing that I would add to that, the second point, is that it's also our responsibility to proactively curate our feed. So I know we talked a lot about removing people that maybe don't align, but something that I did in that same 4 year ago time frame was that I sought out lists of LGBTQ sellers, of Black sellers, of women in sales. So I went out of my way to find lists of folks that had very diverse viewpoints and maybe weren't the typical face that I was seeing on my news feed. And it did wonders for making my news feed a much more enjoyable place to be.
Absolutely. Great advice here. Kind of an organic next question here. One that also comes up a lot, not even just in the women in sales community, but on LinkedIn. I've heard this conversation all the time is, how do you find your personal brand voice and post authentically while maintaining boundaries and not oversharing? Or even how do you figure out where the line is for you personally of what you want to share personally versus professionally? And I'll use myself as an example. I posted when I got engaged, and that is the only LinkedIn post I really regret. And nothing bad happened. I got hundreds and hundreds of messages and comments and the kindest words, and it was really, really sweet. But I knew internally, I was like, I crossed a line. For whatever reason, that for me was a line cross. So this is a topic that does come up. And I think a lot of people, they're seeing certain voices on social media posting, really, really open, sharing, big experiences. And they think, do I have to go to that extent? Do I have to share something that deeply personal? So would love each of your perspectives as it pertains to, finding your personal voice, posting authentically, also maintaining boundaries, and potentially if you want to add in a layer of balancing personal brand with company brand voice, because I know that kind of filters into all this too. So this is a big loaded question. So Leslie, let's start with you, because I feel like you have a point of view on this.
I do, of course I do. One thing I will say is that I was posting before I left corporate, and I was so extremely careful about what I was posting. It was one of the reasons that I decided to start creating on TikTok, because that felt like a much safer place to bring more of my personality, to be a bit more raw, to be more authentic. And a lot of it was stuff like, I didn't feel comfortable on LinkedIn sharing stories about the reality of what it was like to be a woman in sales, because at the time I didn't know I was going to go full-time founder. And I knew that that would make me a less attractive job candidate, or maybe seem like a riskier job candidate. So I have had this conversation with myself so many times about what I feel safe posting, what feels authentic to me. Where I have ended now, I think, is very similar to you, Alexine. I give LinkedIn a lot Like I give LinkedIn a lot of myself, a lot of my knowledge, a lot of my stories, but I'm also 100% sure that LinkedIn does not deserve all of me. And so for me, that means stuff about like my partner, my marriage, my like, my nieces and nephews. I keep that family stuff really like close to me, and I don't very often post about it on LinkedIn. And what I come back to often is this my story to tell? And if it involves somebody else, it's often not my story to tell, which means it's just I have other stuff. I have so much to talk about. I don't need to tell other people's stories to get likes on LinkedIn.
Absolutely. Kayla, what about you?
I'm similar to Leslie. I'll play devil's advocate at the latter part of my answer. I think that some people are really comfortable sharing personal stories on a professional platform. The reality is that's just not me. It's just not me. Like Alexine, you said, it's your one regret. Leslie, you're saying, do I feel safe? We have to create our own boundaries and what we're comfortable with. That is your authentic self. So me going and posting about personal experiences or, nieces and nephews, that just wouldn't be authentic to myself. But what I will say is that those stories probably resonate with a really wide audience. And so if you are comfortable posting about your child or your significant other or a family trip, and that's authentically what you want to do, and you're comfortable and you feel safe doing that, guess what? I like those posts all day, every day. They so resonate with me. When my CEO is posting about his daughter, I like that so quickly and I comment because it is heartwarming. It is real. It's warm. It's fuzzy. There's a story behind it. For me personally, and that it could change, but right now, July 31st, 2025, like I am not, that wouldn't be authentic to who I am or my comfort level.
Yeah. And can I just jump in, Kayla, because I think you said something so brilliant there, which is that could change. Because my gosh, has what I have felt comfortable posting and like my content pillars, like that has evolved. So what you decide is right for you today, that doesn't have to be the thing that you are stuck with forever. Give yourself that permission, that grace to evolve what you're comfortable posting as you evolve as a creator.
Absolutely. Yes. Very well said. And points well taken. I think the TLDR, and we'll go to you as well, Lucy, but the TLDR here is it's going to vary person to person. And that's very much what we expected from this question is we're each going to have different levels of comfortability of topics that we want to talk about. And there's absolutely nothing wrong if someone does like talking about their partner. It doesn't mean the other person's less proud or less excited. It just means that we have a different level of comfortability and a different level of access that we want to give to our story, whereas some people might have a different level that they like to share at. So it's all good as long as it feels good with you. I think that's the biggest thing. If you get like the inky feeling like I did, that's when you know that you have that internal boundary and maybe you're starting to brush up against it. Lucy, what about you? What would you add here?
Yeah, I think I'm in agreement with a lot of the points that have been made. Like, it's all about your own boundaries, what you feel comfortable with. But I think, like, I know that the start of this question was really about how do you find your personal brand voice? And I think really, like, that is being the person that you would be in conversation with your friends and family. It would be the people that the person that you are, rather, like with your colleagues, etc. And creating that sort of brand which is reflective of that is being your authentic self. That doesn't mean that you need to share every granular detail of your life and all those kind of things, which I think some people are comfortable with, some people aren't. But I think it's really making it work for you in a professional setting. I want to present myself like this, which is still myself. I can take the mick out myself. I can like have a laugh, but I can also be really real and share more thoughtful posts, etc. But it is just about finding that balance. And when it comes to finding your own voice on LinkedIn, like think about the person. I think somebody once said to me, like, how would your friends and family describe you in 3 words, and use those 3 words to create almost your voice and your tonality on LinkedIn, and that will be what does well. So yeah.
Absolutely. And I was thinking a lot about this too when we were talking about this topic all together and just putting together some of the ideas of what we wanted to talk about. Sometimes I think it's okay to acknowledge you don't know what your personal brand voice is initially. I really struggled with that because again, I was following a lot of these big creators when I was first getting into sales and watching the type of content, and it was so heavy hitting, or it's them on a keynote stage. And I was like, what could I possibly post? I'm not on a keynote stage. So for me, what got me started, I was in AE roles for over 10 years. So I just started sharing really, really tactical stuff day to day. Like, hey, I did X number of cold calls today. Here were the results. Here's something I learned and took away. And then that was what stuck because it was very real. It was just exactly what I was living day to day. And I didn't realize that people would resonate with that. So I think it's also okay to take a moment sometimes and say, okay, what am I knowledgeable about? What am I living day to day? And maybe I focus my brand voice initially on those things and those topics, and then let it build and snowball from there. Because what you realize is you start to get more comfortable posting as you share that, and then people get to know you. So, so that's something I would recommend those early days too. As we think about our good friend, the algorithm, whichever platform we want to think about when we're talking about this, whether it be LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, you name it. There's a lot happening with algorithms as of late. There is engagement fluctuations. There are other unknowns. I've been in a LinkedIn bot cycle for like a month where I keep getting like the bot tests every time I log into my account. So there's always something happening on social media that we have to adjust to. So for each of you, how are you continuing to show up consistently without burning out, especially when, you know, maybe you spend a really long time crafting this beautiful post and it just completely crashes? So Lucy, let's start with you for this one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like it is the trickiest thing, almost one of the trickiest things to do in sales is to work out the LinkedIn algorithm. If anybody's cracked the code, then do let me know. But I think it really is just like, you've got to post. And obviously there's kind of like, I don't want to go down the logic of don't think, just post, because you should always think what you're putting out there and what you are putting into the world of social media. But you should also have sort of like the confidence that has peaks and troughs. Like, just because this post that you spent time and effort on, it doesn't take away from the value that you're presenting, even if it's to 5 people, not the 500 people you're used to. There's still value in it, and there's still value in consistency. So I know something that's really big for me is thinking about like a bit of a rota for posting. So like, I know typically meme posts do well, like more tactical posts do well, maybe a slightly more personal one. And I try and balance those, but just keep consistent with that balance. And also use the stories that you're facing every day. Like, nothing is more authentic than a conversation you've had with a prospect the day before, or a cold call that's gone bad. Just keep your brand consistent. Don't worry about the level of likes and engagement. Just keep posting, basically, is the logic, even though it can feel sometimes hard. Just keep going.
Yes, absolutely. Leslie, I know this is a topic you're intimately familiar with, and I was thinking about this actually earlier today. Do you remember when there used to be the list that went out and it would track engagement against top creators? So if you had even one post perform poorly, you would get like flopped off this list. So that was incredibly intimidating. That was for like a 2-year period. And I know you were on there too. But I always laugh thinking about that, because I would be just kicking myself if like my Tuesday post collapsed. I was like, I've done it. I'm off the list. It's over for me. So for you, Leslie, I know you've had to navigate this, and you spend a lot of time carefully curating your content, and not every post is a winner. It is in my eyes, but for you probably personally. So what do you say to this? What are your thoughts?
Oh, so many thoughts, but I'll keep it with my top thoughts. First, Lucy absolutely nailed it, that the most important thing you can do is show up consistently with quality content, like full stop. That's the key. That's the hack. That's the unlock. That's the silver bullet. And I know that's hard to hear, because maybe a lot of folks listening today, like you, Alexine, started LinkedIn by following a bunch of big creators, and it's hard to not immediately compare yourself to the traction their posts are getting, where you're like, cool, well, another 3 likes for my post. But trust me, all of us started there. And we kept showing up with thoughtful, intentional posts, and we kept showing up consistently, and we have grown as a result. I think where I am now is that I try to strike a balance between remembering that even when my posts don't perform as well as I maybe would like them to, they are still, I trust that they are still finding their way to the people that need them most, with also recognizing that I do put a tremendous amount of time into content creation. So I have to know what the algorithm is doing to some extent. I don't make big changes to my like content pillars or the type of content I'm creating, because I stay on brand pretty consistently, but I might start doing a few more carousels or do more video or do less video. So I'll make micro adjustments, because I'm not going to spend that much time creating content and then not try to optimize for making sure it gets to the people that need it. But generally, like I don't check my impressions anymore. I don't check my dashboards unless I'm doing it like for a partner to send data to them. But I just found that being obsessed with likes and impressions absolutely sucked the joy out of content creation for me. And this is still an act of creative expression, and I think it should bring me joy and it should be fun. So I just have kind of forced myself to stop caring as much.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Could not agree more. Kayla, any thoughts before we move ahead in the conversation about how you think about showing up, especially when you're just feeling not the best?
Yeah, I mean, algorithms, engagement rules, they are moving so incredibly fast that unless you're, one of your top 3 goals is to be a top creator, a top influencer, it's moving at the speed of light. And I think when you're trying to catch up to impressions, that's when you run the risk of just doing things for like clickbait sake. And I don't know if that's really authentic, right? And so I don't even look at that, but I really never have, because a goal for me isn't to be my goal isn't to be a top creator. So I am truly posting because I want to post. If you are chasing impressions though, you're probably thinking more short-sighted. It is a long game. And so just don't think about, this one post, like making it for you. It's not the way it works. And I think that's how you candidly can end up having some regrets.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Chasing engagement can sometimes lead to really awful outcomes too. And we've seen that with many of our peers. And so I think that is very well stated. The Q&A is blown up. There's some really cool questions in here. So we're going to make sure we budget some time, because I'm like fangirling over some of the Q&A questions. But here is another, maybe one of the biggest questions that also comes up around this topic. And this is a tough one. And I also think all of us on this session are going to have a unique viewpoint, as we're all women as well, in talking about this creation. And that is the fear of being bullied, harassed, judged, talked about for building your personal brand. How do you respond? What are your thoughts around that? Because I know this is something that we struggle with. And unfortunately, as women, there are deeper layers to this question too. And so let's start with you, Kayla, for this one.
Yeah, it's real. It happens. I really do not try to perseverate on other people's judgments or opinions. And that's in really all facets of my life. You're never going to please everyone. Not everyone is going to agree with you. People are going to disagree with you. A healthy challenge or disagreement is a good thing. Bullying's just not tolerated. It's just a non-negotiable, right? And so to Leslie's point, removing people who are bullying, mean, rude versus respectfully challenging is the way I go about things.
Very well said. Very well said. Especially around like that healthy dialogue. There's a difference between what is very clearly harassment and like bullying for the sake of being nasty and a constructive conversation. So I think being able to distinguish between the two and separate yourself is absolutely critical. Leslie, what about you?
Yeah, I have had some really scary experiences on social media, not LinkedIn so much because there's the anonymity isn't there, but definitely on Twitter and definitely on TikTok, rape threats, death threats. And I mean, even this morning on Twitter, I had a very aggressive set of comments about male anatomy and what I should do with it. And so those are all, I know. And so those are all obviously immediate blocks and reports. It's scary because my name is associated with it, and like it's pretty easy to figure out. Like, you know, I live in Chicago and here's the events I'm gonna be at. So there is an element of fear. And the more space I take up and the more confident I am, the more aggressive and negative the comments from men specifically become. So there's a fear element, but I think the other part of that is so much of those comments are trying to make us afraid, trying to make us feel small or like it's not worth to post. So I have tried really hard to turn that into like the fuel that fires me to want to take up more space, particularly because I'm a founder, I'm my own boss. Like nobody's going to fire me, nobody's going to write up, something that I did because they didn't like it. So I try to be even bolder and more confident to hopefully make space for more folks that want to post and just I don't know, show people that even though it can be really scary, that it is still very worth it.
Absolutely. And it kind of ties in a way too to the question around like building that community and the people, like surrounding yourself with good people. Because what you realize is when situations like that happen, or you have these haters, bullies, whatever it is, those people show up for you. And it's really like in really surprising ways that you would never expect. Sometimes it's behind the scenes. Sometimes you never even hear about it or know that it's happening. And it's even more of a reason to build like that group of people around you who support you, who like what you're doing, who believe in you. I think that's so critical. And especially we as women to be able to do that for one another and protect each other in spaces or places where some of those themes are coming up. So I know that's tough to share, Leslie. So appreciate you.
Thank you for sharing. Really, thank you so much for sharing.
Just to like highlight exactly how right you are, because I don't know if you remember a couple of years ago, a very, very big creator tried to drag me on LinkedIn, like totally took something out of context and did it just for clickbait. Like it was such a freaking clickbait post. And I work a 4-day work week. So it was on Monday, I was not online. And I checked my LinkedIn for the very first time, maybe at like 3:34 in the afternoon. And the post had gone viral. And there were hundreds of people in that creator's comments being like, I have followed Leslie for years, or I've known Leslie, or Leslie has coached me, and like, this is untrue, this is inappropriate, like it's disgusting. You would like, the LinkedIn community came out hard in the paint to have my back. And it was like, for anything bad that happens, I think, 10, 15 amazing things happen. And that was a perfect epitome of that.
Absolutely. And I think that that's what we're all actually trying to build. Like there's a following, but then there's relationships. Mm-hmm. And what Leslie's talking about, those are relationships, right? Folks that are going to totally have your back and stand up for you and frankly, stand up for what's right.
Like community versus audience.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Lucy, anything else to add here before we take a little pivot?
I obviously just in agreement with a lot of what's been said, but I think also it's just kind of like the person that's left a nasty comment or said something that's just crossed a line, crossed a boundary, like how sad they'll probably be getting a kick out of it. Like the best thing you can do is block, remove, move on, and just focus on the good. As Leslie said, for one bad comment, there's 10,000 other good things and good things, good people out there. So yeah, just block, remove, and move on.
Yeah, absolutely. I just saw this Instagram video that I think is like perfect depiction of this. I forget what they had all these examples, but basically it was like if you were doing the dishes and got a little water on your shirt and then he like grabs a bucket and like dumps water on his head. Because it's basically like, would you let something that was just this one menial thing impact the rest of you? Like, would you let it take you down? So yeah, I think that is absolutely true. There's so much good that comes. And of course, there's always going to be the dark side to that, but usually it's not as big as the light, hopefully. So yeah, as we think about pivoting a little bit here, this is another big question that comes up as we think about personal brand. Of course, all of us as sellers have to sell at the end of the day. So we need to close deals. We need to win business. We need to curate relationships with potential buyers. So where does your personal brand building come into play as you're thinking about your ability to drive more revenue? Where are you kind of using your personal brand as it pertains to sales specifically? Let's start with you, Lucy, for this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like I was an SDR for about 3.5 years. I've now nearly been in the AE role for 2 years. So like LinkedIn became really my engine room for opportunities. Like all of my interactions were either people that had liked or engaged with my post, commented. They would be people that are viewing my profile. And I would try and do a lot of like SDR, relatable memes, things like that, and just live in the logic that every one of those SDRs has a manager that I can speak to, and almost make that like my warm intro, so everything just felt that little bit more familiar. But even when it's come to like building out like my own sales process now as an account executive, like I can feel the like almost like people, my level of credibility, people are familiar with me. They've seen me post about sales coaching. So I'm not just coming from like, oh, I've done the sort of like crash course on sales coaching and that's my knowledge. Like I'm actively posting about it, talking about it, encouraging others to speak to me. So I think when it comes to sort of like brand personality and how that's come into my sales like outreach, it's just been trying to marry up the two of being very personality. I'm still like conversational and making that sort of the theme of the sales process, as opposed to like, I'm never going to be somebody that's super direct, as you've seen from this answer. So that's just not going to be reflective of my brand on LinkedIn or in my sales process. So yeah, I think it's just being consistent and just letting your personality shine through.
Absolutely. Leslie, what about you? Because I know similar to me, you're doing a lot of we're both doing a lot of brand deals. Like that's happening a lot of the time through LinkedIn. So I'm curious to hear what you deploy.
Yeah, so 2 super cool things are happening for me because of LinkedIn. And for folks that are maybe not familiar with me, I'm a full-time founder, run my own company. I've been doing that for a little over 3 years, and it's a multi-6-figure business, and I run it 100% from inbound and referrals. And the inbound is coming from social media, predominantly LinkedIn. So not only has LinkedIn become this incredible vessel for me, and like also a lot of the referrals come from the LinkedIn community. So LinkedIn has become this incredible tool that has allowed me to leave corporate, explore my entrepreneurial dreams. But now that I have such an established brand and a large following, I'm like 100 people away from 50,000. Wink if you want to go follow me. I'm doing brand deals. So like last year I made 47K in brand deals. This year I'll probably come close to doubling that, which is insane. It's not just on LinkedIn, it's on multiple platforms, but like that is insane to conceptualize. And what I'll tell you folks is that for every one brand deal I say yes to, I actually did this math with Anish, who's my brand agent, I say no to about 40. So that means that there are so many opportunities for brands that are interested in exploring influencer marketing. And I know many creators with fewer than 10,000 followers on LinkedIn who are getting lucrative brand deals already. So you do not have to have a following like we do for you to tap into either the inbound lead flow opportunities or the paid brand evangelism opportunities.
Absolutely. Amazing numbers too. We love number transparency. Thank you. Kayla, anything to add before we're going to get into AI? Because we know people are waiting for it. So
yeah, absolutely. I'm going to take it in a little bit of a different direction. The way that I do my job really, really well is by hiring incredible talent, because it certainly isn't me that keeps the ZoomInfo enterprise engine going. And we found some incredible team members via LinkedIn and our networks. And that's been such a bonus of having that network and having that brand and being able to draw great talent, not only to me, but also my, other leaders within the business who have sent folks over as referrals.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. We have so many, I'm like chomping at the bit because we got a lot of Q&A questions. So I want to pivot over there, but I know we'll go here and then we're going to go Q&A because I'm too excited. So with AI, I think the big question is, where does AI play into this? There is a lot of questions behind the scenes of like, is everything automated now? Is every big creator just chat GPTing their posts on every single platform? Is anything real anymore? So where do you leverage AI? How does it play into this? And where do you not leverage AI is almost equally as important when you're thinking about putting your personal brand out there. So let's start with you, Leslie, for this one.
Yeah, I have absolutely no AI running on any LinkedIn. I removed every single bot, everything. I did not feel it was worth the risk after 2 very famous brands got completely booted off of LinkedIn. I will sometimes use Claude for ideation because I can feed it my book manuscript. I'm extraordinarily sensitive about using AI for content creation because I do believe that it is leaning on, if not stealing, other people's intellectual property. So for me, being able to feed it like my own posts or my own manuscript and have it create on my intellectual property solves that kind of like moral dilemma for me. But what's really interesting, Alexine, is that while I have absolutely no automation running on LinkedIn, it's all me, it's me in the comments. On Twitter, it's fully automated. I use Claude to help write all of the tweets, and then I use the Canva content planner, and I schedule 90 days out. So I'm not opposed to AI and automation. I think it goes back, Kayla, to like the community versus audience. And on Twitter, I just want an audience. I don't want to be there. That's not the place for me. But I don't want to not exist.
Right.
I don't want to withdraw my voice from the platform, but I don't want to build a community there. LinkedIn, I want to build a community. And so that I automate other places so that I can be more present on the platforms where I really want to spend my time engaging with folks.
That is like one of those quotes that we clip and we take and we put it on social media after this event. Very well stated. Very well said. Lucy, what about you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think obviously it is so easy for people to say, write me a post on LinkedIn, write me a post on cold calling, write me a post on this. And it's so easy for people to go and do. But what it's getting more easy to do is to spot those posts an absolute mile off. And you just don't feel that authenticity. You don't feel like you understand that person. It just doesn't feel real and people are just disengaging. And honestly, one of the most frustrating things from a prospecting perspective is when I outreach to people and it's an authentic message I've written and they've gone, oh, that's great. What AI tool did you use? And I'm like, I am now borderline offended at that. Like, that was all my own hard work. But AI is everywhere. I don't think that AI should be used for your LinkedIn posting because, as sort of Leslie alluded to, we are building that more of a community as opposed to an audience. But I think one thing that definitely assures me in this world, which is becoming more AI centric, is those that are building personal brands will be the people that just naturally stand out. Because if you think about Apple's new iOS that's coming in, you get that little AI chat and it comes up saying, hi, I'm Joe from wherever, and they don't have any clue who you are, then just simply they're not going to pick up the phone. However, if you have hi, it's Leslie calling, you know who that person is, you want to engage with them, you want to take that conversation. So yeah, I think it's going to be a real game changer when it comes to that iOS being brought in. So yeah.
Hashtag game changer.
Amazing. Kayla, anything else last you would like to add here before we pivot to Q&A?
True creative content is amazing. I'm not on TikTok, but one of my former team members was, and her TikTok posts were so good. I mean, incredible. And it would be skits about a cold call that she had or a first meeting that she ran. So good. Like that just probably couldn't be made up, or, you know, maybe it could be a little, maybe the script could be written if you gave the scenario. And then a way that I'm using AI, I actually haven't done it for my brand yet, but I have done it for like leadership style, you know, sending in call recordings into, we have a chatbot at ZoomInfo that leverages like all of our chorus calls. So my team calls, like, what's my brand sound like there? You could also feed all of your content and have AI bubble up, you know, some key pillars of what your brand is sounding like, and then reflect on it. Like, is that what you want to sound like? Is that who you want to be? And to Leslie and I have talked about it, like start the evolution if it's not.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think there basically where we land here is there's a world in which both have applications. And again, it's about comfortability. I met someone at an event a few years ago. We got into like a very heated debate because she was very much an advocate of using AI to do like voicemails on her behalf. And I was like, do you look at the copy first? No. Do you check what goes out? No. Do you re-listen to them? No. And I said, that's terrifying. So for some people, that's something, you know, they have that level of trust. They feel like it's going to work. And that's their prospecting process. All good. For me, wouldn't work for me. That's my worst nightmare. But all that to say, everybody's going to have different levels of comfortability. Everybody's going to kind of curate and create content in ways that feel most authentic to them. I do personally, this is my selfish wish. I do wish that I don't know if it's a percentage, but if it's like 75% plus written by AI, I wish there was a way to like tag those posts, because I feel that would feel most authentic to me. But I also think that's a pipe dream. So just throwing it out there into the universe. But we're going to pivot to Q&A. We are going to answer a couple of these questions. And what we're going to do is we're just going popcorn style. So if you have a POV, jump in and answer. I'm not going to call on each of you. But we have a long list. So maybe just one person per question, or if you feel really strongly on something, jump in. But I'm going to pop it onto the screen. And I sorted these by popularity because we had a bunch. So this first question is, how do you balance between appearing too spammy, i.e. posting every other day, versus ensuring your content is meaningful/valuable? There's an audience awareness today about how too many people are trying to force create a good story out of every single little thing, good or bad, every single experience.
I can share my content pillars, which would probably be helpful. So they are content to grow, content to brand build, and content to sell. And so content to sell would be the category where you would maybe get nervous about it being a bit spammy. So content to grow is anything that's like super viral, really easy to interact with, like the cute little list, the unpopular opinions, the hot takes. Content to brand build is when I do share my stories. Like I have a series of posts about why I only work a 4-day work week, or like why I do paid pick my brain sessions. Like those are very personal to me. And then my content to sell never, ever, ever says actually buy from me. It doesn't say like, you should now go to my website and book a meeting with me. Instead, it tells why I think the problems I'm solving for are important and what I think people should do about it. And then the content should be good enough that it makes them want to come inbound to ask how you can help them do that. I will say the exceptions are on Wednesdays, I do my partner posts. And then there will be breakouts. Like, let's be real, y'all have been spamming the newsfeed about this book, like buy the book, buy the book, buy the book. But I think as long as you have like earned the right through creating a tremendous amount of really high quality content to every once in a while be like, hey y'all, I need you to like do this action, you're fine. So I would guess that there's no real risk of you being spammy unless you're explicitly doing posts that give you the ick before you even hit publish.
Amen. Or if you are reposting a different variation of the same post over and over again and just rewording little bits of it, that will very quickly get your audience to a not happy place. So very well said, Leslie. We have another question. This one is not anonymous, so that's exciting. Okay, so this is from Kate Hammer, who asks, what is the best way to create a message when sending an invite to someone you don't personally know yet, but would like a meeting with?
I'm happy to jump in on this one. I think it really comes down to like taking a good look at that person's profile and understanding what sort of person they are. Are they somebody that has got all their interests on there? They're sharing pictures, as we've mentioned before, and make it something that can be relatable to them. Or it can just be value led, like lead with value. Like, can you solve a challenge for that person? Are you helping other people to do that? Then make sure you say that. But something that has, but it's actually a Charlotte Johnson tip, who I know that we're all familiar with on this call, is to not send one at all, which is a bit controversial, but I guess Charlotte's opinion is that it fills up the inbox, so people aren't as likely to accept because they think, oh, I don't want to hear that notification go off. Oh, I don't want to have that obligation to reply to that message. So some people just say, don't send a message at all, just let the connection happen. And then you've got the opportunity to message them really organically and have a conversation. So yeah, there's top tips.
Absolutely. Yes. I'm a big fan of no message. I'm also in that camp. And a big fan of commenting on their content as a segue before ever reaching out. I think it's a good way to create familiarity, trust before actually having any kind of ask. So love these, some good pro tips. And we are going to do one more, I think. So this one is from Amanda D'Souza, who asks, how do you use your personal brand to actually generate sales? My goal with building out my personal brand is to be seen as an expert in the field that I sell in, not as much of a creator. Any suggestions on this? I feel like, Kayla, this is actually a good one for you.
Yeah, I feel like, you can certainly take a thought leadership stance, a subject matter expert stance. You want to be thoughtful on who you're following, who you're engaging with. I would say that's somewhat similar to how I utilize, LinkedIn from like a leadership perspective, SaaS perspective. And so you don't necessarily have to, want to be a creator or be seen as a creator. You can certainly be a subject matter expert. You can lead with your expert opinions and views on the space that you sell within and closely related spaces. It's a really good question, Amanda.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for all the Q&A questions. We're going to do one rapid fire question for our panelists since we're almost up on time. Before we go there, 2 links that are in the chat that I myself have been spamming you we have an interactive demo link to ZoomInfo's Copilot. So highly recommend checking that out. Great resource for any of you sellers who want to have some of the hard parts of sales taken off your plate so you can focus more on sales conversations, which is what we love. And then the second link that I'm dropping here is for the Women in Sales Slack community. This is where you can get access to all of our events, whether they're in person, virtual, any resources, big launches. Sometimes we do swag giveaways. So, there's all kinds of things happening in there. So that's where you want to be. But to round out today's conversation, we're going to do a 30 seconds answer to this question. And that is, what is the one piece of advice that each of you would give to anyone here that is ready to start building out their own personal brand? Leslie, you're first.
Do it. Just do it right now. Bias towards action. You don't need all this fancy equipment. It does not need to be perfect. My original content was horrifyingly cringe. It does not matter. It got me started and it got me to where I am now. So get out of your own way and just take action.
So good. Kayla.
Play the long game. It doesn't happen overnight.
Well said. Lucy.
I'll go for a quote as well. Comparison's the thief of joy. So don't start comparing yourself to other people. Just, as Leslie said, keep going. And as Kayla said, play the long game and you'll be fine.
So good. I love that, Lucy.
Straight rapid fire. And you know you best. That's my advice. Thank you all so much for being here. What an awesome dynamic conversation. We covered a lot of ground, and we honestly had another like 10 plus Q&A questions. So if you want to keep the conversation going, we have a knowledge sharing channel over in the Women in Sales Slack community. So feel free to take some of your questions over to there. We're so grateful for all of you for taking time out of your day to be here as audience members, and also to our panelists. And of course, to the amazing ZoomInfo, who has helped make this entire conversational series a possibility for women in sales. Thank you all. And we will see you at our next event, which is all about cold calling. And it's going to be very tactical. So we'll see you there.
Thank you.